Hi everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of LambdaTest Experience series. Through XP series, we deep dive into a world of insights and innovation, featuring renowned industry experts and business leaders in the testing and QA ecosystem. I'm Kavya, your host and Director of Product Marketing at LambdaTest, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's XP webinar. Before we start, let me introduce you to our expert speaker, Nihal Agazada, solution engineer at Codemagic. Nihal has been a guiding force in helping Codemagic users build and publish their apps seamlessly, solving tricky mobile app integration problems along the way. His extensive experience includes multiple integrations of third-party tools with Codemagic, making him the perfect person to shed light on our topic today. In today's webinar, Nihal will unravel the secrets behind how Codemagic, a cloud-based CI/CD platform that helps tackle the challenges faced by mobile app developers and QA engineers. Codemagic doesn't just automate the app building and testing process. It goes beyond providing solutions for viewing test logs, easy access to simulators and emulators, launching custom devices for tests, and scheduling builds for optimal app development cycle management. It's a treasure trove of insights. So without further ado, let's jump right into the heart of our discussion. Nihal, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself to the audience before we get started?
Hey Kavya, hey everybody, thanks for having me. I'm Nihal. I'm doing solutions engineering at Codemagic. I've been helping developers with onboard their applications with Codemagic, and we, as Kavya said, we provide different levels of support from the product side. So it includes testing your application, building your application, publishing them to different stores, and I've been doing it with the developers that we have with the Codemagic platform. So yeah, if to begin with, Kavya, if you don't mind, I'd like to briefly talk about Codemagic, what Codemagic is, what it does. Then we can continue from that point on.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to see that.
Nice. I have one presentation. I think that I'll try to share that one. Yeah. I think that's better if, visually to show this while I'm talking about what Codemagic does in general. Codemagic is a cloud platform, cloud-based continuous integration and continuous delivery platform, specifically designed for mobile applications. If you build your applications with Flutter, React Native, native Android, native iOS, Ionic, Unity, then Codemagic can help you develop, build, and publish your applications, and even including testing at this point. Thanks to its versatile workflow and API, it's now possible to build your white labeling applications as well. So if you have one app and you want to white label it to customize it by changing its icons, bundle identifiers, certificates, when talking about Android builds, then key store, etc. Codemagic can help you with doing this. So what you need to do is just you add your application, and that application, that repository could be from any Git provider, Bitbucket, GitLab, or GitHub, or if you have self-hosted repos, then Codemagic handle these as well. And then what Codemagic does is it just seamlessly takes your repo by you provide this certificates, a key store, and everything that required for code signing. Then Codemagic does all these processes, all these manual processes that you usually do on your local machine, and then publishes them to different stores, App Store, Google Play. If you want to publish them to Microsoft Store or Firebase or different places, Codemagic can do them through the scripts that you provide. And some of them are actually out of the box ready. And if you need to publish them to internal channels, for example Slack, you could need to send binary URLs to external users. You can achieve this with Codemagic as well, or email notifications, and all these are handled out of the box by Codemagic. So I think if that should be at this point enough, because if I continue talking about all the things, probably it would take forever, 𝐿𝐸. So yeah, that's briefly about me and about Codemagic, what Codemagic does.
Definitely, that helps. It is, as you say on your website, one tool for all your mobile app builds. So thanks for that quick introduction. Now we could get started with the questions. So the first thing that I wanted to understand was, what are the mechanisms that Codemagic offers for easy access to virtual devices through VNC or SSH?
Okay. That's so when we are talking about in general mobile development, one step that we cannot avoid is testing. So because eventually we want our end users to see our product with no errors, with no blockers. So before moving them, before publishing them to production, we want to test them, and that testing environment is quite challenging, as we know. So there are lots of factors that make this process quite challenging. One of them, let's get started with debugging issues. And we while building and publishing our application, usually we see errors, and we want to debug them without wasting too much time. Because eventually, what we want to focus on app development rather than building and publishing them by going through lots of manual steps. Codemagic at this point allows developers to remote access to builder machines, because when triggering a build from the Codemagic side, and that build is triggered in a virtualized environment, which means that virtualized environment is active while your build is going on. As soon as it's done, as soon as it's like failing, passing for whatever reason, it just stops. That environment is destroyed. So before that environment is destroyed, Codemagic allows you to remote access to these machines. Let's say you're building your native iOS application. But in order to build iOS applications, you need a Mac machine, and an Xcode. And as these don't require you to build, to have all these processes on your local machine, means that by enabling remote access, SSH and VNC session, you can log in these Mac machines and open this Xcode. Let's call it virtualized Xcode, virtual Xcode. If you need, let's say, your iOS application requires a higher deployment target, for example, and you can do it with Codemagic Xcode. What you need to do is just open Xcode in VNC session, let's say, and then upgrade your deployment target. Then by running the build command again on the Codemagic virtual machine, you can test it to see if that deployment target is the one that you're looking for. Because the opposite scenario could be this, that you don't know which deployment target it is. You just need to get and upgrade it on your local machine, a local Xcode, and then push it. And then if it is not the one that you're looking for, it will fail. This cycle goes on and on. So it's just in order to fully automate that process, Codemagic allows developers to have access to builder machines so that you can customize or continue testing on these machines rather than testing it on your local machine, pushing it, then coming back, and etc., etc. So yeah, this is one example that could help. I mean, usually developers, I know from the experience that they want to test it on the machines, like on the builder machines, rather than doing it because the build process is, is happening on the builder machine. And then there's one option as well, if required, if let's say that deployment target is the one that you're looking for. You changed it in the virtual Xcode, and then you ran the build command again with Codemagic machines, and the build passes, then you have an option to push that change directly to your code base, because by default Codemagic doesn't have write access to the repos. So if by giving access, by providing your credentials, you can push them directly from Codemagic machines to your repo. This is optional, and yeah, up to developers if they want to.
Yeah, thank you, Nihal. So interesting. So essentially, for easy access to virtual devices, Codemagic provides, VNC and SSH mechanisms that again allows developers to interact and troubleshoot their builds directly on the virtual devices. I hope that sums it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing, if I may add here, is that way you can also, developers can also compare their builds, for example, in the virtual environment, in the virtual Xcode, let's say, if which version is being used, which deployment target, or anything really about code signing is used, and then they can't compare with their local builds. So yeah, this is quite interactive and quite helpful when debugging issues.
Great. So the next question that I had was, how does Codemagic enable the creation of multi-dimensional workflows for the automatic building and publishing of apps based on specific conditions in test workflows?
That's multidimensional workflows. That's a good question. Well, when we are saying multidimensional workflows, I believe this is eventually what we want about fully automating our process, because what we need, usually what developers need, is they don't want to manually let's say trigger builds, start a build as soon as they make any changes. So at this point, Codemagic, what you can do with Codemagic when talking about multidimensional workflows is, through Codemagic API, we can, let's say we have workflow A, workflow B, and workflow C, and we want to create this multidimensional structure among these workflows. So if you run your workflow A, which is your testing workflow, and you want, based on the results of that workflow, you want it to trigger workflow B, and again based on the results, then eventually you want to trigger workflow C, which is your production workflow, which builds your production binary, and publishes it to stores. So Codemagic allows you to achieve this through its API. So what Codemagic does at this point is it just reads the build status of workflow A. Let's say if it is finished successfully and tests passed and everything's okay, then automatically through API it just triggers. So you don't have to come back and trigger workflow A. It just triggers workflow B. And again, if, let's say, workflow B, there is something that needs to be debugged, there are issues, which is what we want at the end of the day before our application reaches the end users. Just if it fails, then workflow C, which is our production workflow, doesn't get triggered, which means that doesn't get published to App Store or Play Store. And workflow, as soon as workflow, as I said at the beginning when introducing the main idea, you can enable these notifications as well. So it sends an email or Slack or anything, any tool that you're using that can be integrated with Codemagic. Then you get these results to your, let's say, email that your build failed or your build passed and your build published to the App Store, etc. So this whole cycle can be achieved with Codemagic API. And yeah, we have all these, I believe, documented quite clearly. So yeah, if needed, developers can just reach out to us or just read our documentation about our API.
Great,
So yeah,
thanks.
the answer is yes, it is possible.
Yeah, interesting. So it's like, creating workflows, to developers' tune that could dance to developers' tune, and having it all on autopilot.
Yep. Yeah, that's the good one actually. Yeah, you just turn on the autopilot mode and everything is done by Codemagic.
Thanks. The next question that I had was, how does Codemagic integrate with external products like LambdaTest, specifically with real devices, and how does this integration enhance the overall testing process?
Integration. When it comes to integrating Codemagic with other tools, I've worked with many integrations actually that and I can say that the versatile workflow system allows us to integrate these tools, whatever tool we want, quite easily. And what it means is that Codemagic YAML file, which lives in the root directory of your repository, is based on like Bash scripts and Python scripts. So if you have, let's say, if you want to customize something, if you want to integrate with an external tool, then what you need to do is just run the endpoints of that tool in the Codemagic YAML file, and Codemagic will print out all the logs, all the processes. If you want to publish, let's talk about LambdaTest integration, for example. We have integrated LambdaTest with Codemagic, and which means that we are users, developers from the Codemagic side. They use LambdaTest API key points, and they can see what's happening in the logs, in the Codemagic logs. If it's publishing, if it's not publishing, if, let's say, credentials are incorrect, etc. So these can easily be integrated. For example, I can quickly share my screen about 𝐊𝐸, if you don't mind, about LambdaTest integration. I think if you see this visually, that would be easier to understand what I mean by that. For example, this is LambdaTest integration. What technically this does is developers take LambdaTest API, because LambdaTest provides to real-time and app automation, which provides different, let's say, API key points, and along with the credentials for the curl request. So what developers need to do is just take this curl request, provide your credentials, LambdaTest credentials, and then your binary is built, your test is, let's say, your test package is built, and then Codemagic publishes these to LambdaTest environment automatically. And from that point on, it is on the LambdaTest side to test the binary on real devices. So what you can, at the same time, what you can achieve is that you can fetch these tests, let's say LambdaTest completed the testing process, testing cycle, then using again the API endpoints, we can fetch these results to print them out in the Codemagic logs. So it's quite flexible. It's quite easy to customize with different integration tools. And which has been
cool.
used many times by developers, because different requirements, different tools. Yeah, the whole cycle. The general idea is just that you can customize Codemagic YAML file according to your needs, and
yeah. And thanks for highlighting this, Nihal. I wanted to understand if there are any standout features or tips for maximizing the benefits that you might want to share with developers and testers listening in.
Well, again, the general idea always is about managing time and making the process quite easy to debug issues and eventually guide our binary our application to the stores, the end users. What I can say, for example, what comes to my mind at the moment is something related to your previous question about automating this multidimensional workflows. What you can do is you can add extra layer of automation by scheduling your builds. So what it means is that Codemagic allows you to set up a time for your workflow, and that workflow is going to be executed at that exact certain time that you configure. So let's say we want to we have QA workflows, and we don't want our QA workflows to be executed during the day when our production cycle is quite active with developers. So what we can do is we can schedule a build for our QA workflows, and these QA workflows will be executed overnight. And then if we enable this multidimensional workflow that we mentioned previously, then everything will be triggered and done overnight. So when you open your workflow, you'll see that QA workflow is done, and then workflow B again. If you enable this multidimensional section, then workflow B triggered, and then workflow C automatically published without you notice. That requires your time. So yeah, the scheduling builds one of the things. Another thing I can say is when it's about testing your mobile application is emulators and iOS simulators. Codemagic build machines have these simulators and emulators pre-installed, which means that you don't need to install any iOS simulator to execute your tests. But at the same time, Codemagic allows you to customize and create these simulators. So which means that if your application, for example, requires a different iOS system of the simulator, and then you can easily create with Codemagic the required simulator, and then execute your tests on that exact simulator. So it's quite flexible, which means that you can either use the pre-installed softwares, or you can create them by yourself in these on Codemagic virtual machines. So these are usually I'm quite sure there are lots of things if we talk about like in general about how to deep dive into this flow. There are lots of things that can be achieved with the workflow structure. And yeah, another thing could be different softwares. For example, if you need to test, or not just testing, but I think it's mainly about building and publishing your app. If you need it, if you need your application to be built with a specific Java version, or for Android builds, if you want to upgrade your Gradle, or you need your application to be built with a specific Xcode. So all these can what you need to do is in Codemagic YAML file, just one line, you change one line. For example, Xcode 15, you just change it to Xcode 15.1 and save the file. And with the build, Codemagic takes into account that Xcode version, which means that you don't have to, what we usually do is when building locally, we just need to update our Xcode. If different Java, then we need to change Java version on our local machine. And it's not just Java, Gradle, it's Ruby and different software versions. If just Codemagic allows them to, in 1 second you can just change one line and that's it. That exact software is going to be used with the build. Yeah, these are I think quite useful things when it comes to building and testing applications.
Great, thank you so much, Nihal. That really helps and very insightful as well. So I would also like to understand if you could guide us through Codemagic's configuration options for QA teams, emphasizing scheduled builds and their role in optimizing app development cycles.
Schedule, yeah, that's I think I already kind of answered your question about scheduling builds, but I must again emphasize this because I've seen that it's quite useful for developers. At the end of the day, again, what we want is just automate the process by scheduling builds. Again, you just don't come back to a platform. What you have is in your Codemagic YAML file, and the builds are triggered automatically on a scheduled base if you enable it. And another thing here worth mentioning is that Codemagic builds can be triggered based on different events. For example, if you enable tag creation, or if you create a PR pull request and you want Codemagic to trigger build based on these events, or when merging these pull requests, you can easily configure these. And through webhooks, Codemagic triggers all these builds based on the event type you set up in Codemagic YAML file. So yes, these I believe these all together help not just QA engineers, but in general all the developers when what to do and when they want to achieve all these. I think these questions, like the main thing is these questions can be easily answered by Codemagic, and then it's up to developers what they want to do.
Great, thank you so much. It definitely seems like it is a great great tool so that one could optimize QA workflows. So it's like again having a personal assistant who's automating tasks, making sure that testing is happening on time and so on, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the point.
So, as we wrap up, can you share pro tips on how Codemagic aids developers when it comes to building a robust workflow and tackling testing challenges in mobile app development?
As we already talked, how customizable Codemagic workflow is, so it just can be quite flexible to your needs. Like if you need again to enable flow automation, you can achieve it. If you don't want that flow automation to be in place, you can achieve it. So it all comes down to one thing, that how developers configure the Codemagic YAML, let's say the product-based configurations. So, for example, if any, like these options are all given by the product by Codemagic. So if again, if deployment target, let's say, needs to be changed, you can remote access the build machine. If you want to push those changes from there, you can do it. Or if you need to change in a software version automatically, you can do it as well. If you want to create some conditions inside your workflow, you can achieve it. So it is really hard to say one thing, because I've seen loads of different requirements by developers. So it's hard for me to say which one is better than the other one, because all these are quite useful, and the main thing is all these are possible. But I think the vital point here is, if there's a question, if while setting up the workflows, if there's a question and someone is not sure about something, how to configure it, I'd highly recommend QA developers, QA engineers, in general developers, to reach out our team, so that they can get the best practice depending on their needs. Because otherwise, it gets really hard to to configure these without known needs of developers. So yeah, I think we've already covered many. You asked really good questions, and we've covered the main parts, even though we've got lots of other things to discuss about. But these things are quite useful features that can help developers to build and publish their applications seamlessly. But again, if any questions, if anything failing, or the developers don't understand what to do with that configuration, etc., all these questions can be answered by our team. And if developers want to achieve the best with their configurations.
Thanks, Nihal. That was very insightful. So a pro tip for developers using Codemagic is to leverage its flexibility in workflow creation, incorporate automated testing at various stages, and of course, thus overcome the testing challenges that they face.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much, Nihal. So as we wrap up today's webinar, huge thanks to you for sharing your expertise and shedding light on how Codemagic revolutionizes mobile app testing environments. I hope our audience finds this session insightful and packed with practical tips for enhancing their workflow infrastructure. And before we sign off, stay tuned for more coming episodes in LambdaTest XP series. Until then, keep testing, innovating, and building exceptional mobile apps. Thank you, Nihal, for shedding all the light and joining us today.
Thank you, 𝐶𝐞𝐨.
Have a great day.